The final warning. Commander Samira Hassan stood at the observation deck of lunar base Helios, her dark eyes fixed on the gleaming surface of Earth. The massive solar shield project she oversaw was humanity's last hope against the intensifying solar storms that threatened to make Earth uninhabitable. After 3 years of construction, the shield's launch was mere days away. "Commander, the latest readings from Earth Station Beta," Dr. Richard Parker announced, his tablet displaying a cascade of concerning data. The atmospheric degradation was accelerating faster than their models had predicted. They had weeks, not months, before the first devastating wave would hit Earth. Samira ran her fingers through her short black hair, a habit that betrayed her anxiety. The base housed 50 of Earth's brightest minds, working tirelessly on the SHIELD project. Among them was Marcus Chang, their lead engineer, whose innovative designs had made the impossible dream of a planetary shield feasible. "Brief everyone in the main hall," Samira ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility. "We launch in 48 hours." The halls of Helios buzzed with activity as teams made final preparations. In the engineering bay, Marcus worked frantically to optimize the shield's deployment sequence. His hands moved with practiced precision across holographic displays, adjusting countless variables. "The stabilization array isn't responding as expected," he muttered, more to himself than to his assistant, Diana Wells, who monitored backup systems nearby. "We need to recalibrate the entire northern quadrant." Diana nodded, her expertise in quantum mechanics proving invaluable. "I can reroute power from the auxiliary generators, but it'll leave us vulnerable if anything goes wrong." The next day passed in a blur of final checks and system tests. The shield components, assembled in lunar orbit, stretched across the sky like a spider's web of advanced technology. Each panel was designed to deflect the worst of the solar radiation while allowing enough light through to maintain Earth's ecosystems. As the launch countdown began, an alert blared through the base. "Unexpected solar activity detected," the AI system announced. "Massive coronal ejection approaching lunar orbit." Samira rushed to the control center, where screens displayed the incoming threat. The solar storm would hit them before they could deploy the shield, potentially destroying years of work and humanity's last hope. "We have to launch now," Marcus insisted, his calculations showing a narrow window of opportunity. "If we wait, we lose everything." The decision weighed heavily on Samira. Launching early meant risking system failures, but waiting guaranteed disaster. She thought of her family on Earth, of all the families depending on their success. "Initialize launch sequence," she commanded, her voice echoing through the base's communication system. "All personnel to emergency stations." The shield's deployment began, its massive panels unfurling in the vacuum of space. For a moment, it seemed they might succeed. Then the storm hit. Alarms blared as systems throughout the base overloaded. "Shield integrity at 60% and falling," Diana reported, her fingers flying across controls as she tried to maintain stability. "Reroute all power to the main array," Marcus shouted over the chaos. "We can't lose the central hub." The base shuddered as another wave of solar energy washed over them. Emergency lights flickered, and for a heart-stopping moment, gravity failed. Through it all, Samira maintained her composure, coordinating teams and making split-second decisions that would determine the fate of both the mission and her crew. As the storm began to subside, the extent of the damage became clear. The shield had partially deployed, offering some protection to Earth, but at a terrible cost. Several sections of the base were heavily damaged, and their communication systems were offline. "Status report," Samira demanded, moving through the smoky control room. "Shield deployment at 43%, Diana responded, her voice hoarse. "It's not enough to fully protect Earth, but it might buy us time to repair and complete the deployment." Marcus emerged from the engineering bay, his face streaked with grime. "Commander, we have another problem. The damage to our systems, it's worse than we thought. We can't maintain the shield's current position without constant adjustments from the base." Samira absorbed this news, understanding its implications. Someone would need to remain on the moon, monitoring and adjusting the shield, while the rest of the crew returned to Earth to assist with evacuation efforts. "I'll stay," she announced, silencing the room. "The rest of you will return on the emergency shuttles. Earth needs your expertise for what's coming." Protests erupted, but Samira's decision was final. As preparations began for the emergency evacuation, she recorded a message for Earth Command, explaining their partial success and the sacrifices still to come. Standing once again at the observation deck, Samira watched the shuttles depart, carrying her crew to safety. The shield shimmered faintly in lunar orbit, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. She was now alone, humanity's guardian on the moon, preparing for the long vigil ahead. What she didn't know was that she wasn't the only one left behind, and the coming days would challenge everything she thought she knew about survival, sacrifice, and the true nature of humanity's greatest threats. Echoes of Solitude. 3 weeks into her solitary mission, Commander Samira Hassan discovered the first sign that something was amiss. While checking the hydroponics bay for damage, she found fresh fingerprints on the nutrient control panel, prints that weren't hers. The discovery sent a chill down her spine, despite the climate-controlled environment. The base's vast corridors, once bustling with activity, now echoed with an unsettling emptiness. Samira had maintained strict routines to keep herself focused: morning diagnostics, shield adjustments, system maintenance, and detailed logs of every action. But now, subtle changes began catching her attention: moved equipment, unexplained power fluctuations, and the persistent feeling of being watched. During her daily check of the shield controls, an unexpected alert flashed across her screen. Section 7B of the base, supposedly sealed off due to storm damage, had registered recent atmospheric adjustments. Samira's heart raced as she pulled up the security feeds, only to find them mysteriously offline in that sector. "Computer, run full base bioscan," she commanded, her voice steady despite her growing unease. The results made her blood run cold: 2 distinct heat signatures, one in her current location and another moving through the lower levels. Armed with only a maintenance tool that could double as a weapon, Samira began her investigation. The emergency lights cast long shadows as she made her way down to the research labs. The sound of her magnetic boots against the metal floor seemed thunderous in the silence. A crash from behind a sealed door made her freeze. "This is Commander Hassan," she announced, her voice echoing through the corridor. "Identify yourself immediately." Silence answered her, then a soft scraping sound. The door's control panel suddenly lit up, indicating someone was accessing it from the other side. Samira raised her makeshift weapon as the door slid open, revealing a familiar face she never expected to see. Dr. Thomas Wright, the base's former head of advanced research, stood before her. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, his eyes wild with a mixture of fear and determination. "Commander," he said hoarsely, "I can explain." "You were supposed to be on the evacuation shuttle," Samira stated, not lowering her tool. "Why are you here, Doctor?" Thomas stepped back, gesturing to the lab behind him. "Because what we created here is more dangerous than any solar storm." The lab was filled with experimental equipment she'd never seen before, screens displaying complex data patterns that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. "During the SHIELD project, we made a discovery," Thomas continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Something in the moon's core, Commander. Something that's been waiting." Samira followed him into the lab, her training warring with her curiosity. The main screen showed seismic readings unlike anything she'd seen before, patterns too regular to be natural, too complex to be random. "We detected it while running deep core samples for the shield anchors," Thomas explained, pulling up more data. "At first, we thought it was just an unusual mineral formation. But then it started responding to our presence." The implications of his words hung heavy in the air. "Why didn't you report this?" "Because Earth Command would have shut us down," he replied, frustration evident in his voice. The shield project would have been abandoned. I couldn't let that happen, not when we were so close. So I stayed behind, continued my research. And what I've found. He trailed off, hands shaking as he typed commands into the system. The main screen filled with images that defied explanation, structures deep within the moon that couldn't have formed naturally, energy signatures that pulsed in patterns suggesting intelligence. The moon isn't just a satellite, Commander. It's a construct, a shell around something far older than humanity. Samira's mind reeled at the implications. The solar storms might not be natural at all, Thomas finished. The pattern started changing 3 years ago, exactly when we began construction on the shield. Whatever's down there, it's reacting to our presence, our technology. A low vibration ran through the base, causing equipment to rattle. Thomas rushed to his instruments, face paling at the readings. It's happening more frequently now. The energy signatures are intensifying. We need to contact Earth, Samira decided, but Thomas grabbed her arm. The communications array isn't just damaged, Commander. I disabled it. His expression was pleading. If Earth finds out what's here, they'll send more people, more equipment. Every time we drill, every time we build, it responds more strongly. We're provoking something we don't understand. Another tremor, stronger this time, shook the base. Warning lights flashed as systems throughout Helios reported stress fractures. The shield's control panel erupted in alerts. The entire array was being affected by whatever force emanated from beneath the lunar surface. Samira pulled free from Thomas's grip. Whether you're right or wrong, Doctor, that shield is the only thing protecting Earth right now. And it's failing. As if in response to her words, a deep rumble resonated through the moon's core, and both humans watched in horror as the floor beneath them began to glow with an otherworldly light. They had uncovered something ancient and powerful, and now they would have to face the consequences of humanity's relentless expansion into the cosmos. The question was no longer whether they were alone on the moon, but whether they were ready for the answer. Ancient whispers. The luminescent patterns spreading across the laboratory floor pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm, casting strange shadows that seemed to dance along the walls. Commander Samira Hassan and Dr. Thomas Wright stood transfixed as the phenomenon intensified, their shadows stretching and distorting in the ethereal light. We need to move, Samira commanded, snapping out of her trance. If these energy signatures are affecting the shield controls, we have minutes, maybe hours before the entire system fails. Thomas hurriedly gathered his research tablets, fumbling with delicate equipment. There's something you need to see first, he insisted, leading her deeper into his makeshift laboratory. I've been tracking these energy patterns for weeks. They're not random, they're forming a language. The main research terminal displayed complex waveforms that shifted and merged in hypnotic patterns. Thomas pulled up a series of recordings, each showing similar but distinctly different sequences. Watch this, he said, overlaying the patterns with linguistic analysis algorithms. Samira's eyes widened as the computer began identifying repeated sequences, structured patterns that couldn't be coincidental. It's trying to communicate. Not trying, Thomas corrected, his voice barely above a whisper. It's been communicating all along. We just weren't listening. He pressed a sequence on his console, and a low, harmonic tone filled the room. The glowing patterns on the floor pulsed in perfect synchronization with the sound. The base's structural integrity sensors suddenly blared warnings. Multiple fractures detected in lower levels, the computer announced. Recommended evacuation of sectors 3 through 7. We need to get to the shield control room, Samira insisted, but Thomas grabbed her arm again. Commander, look. He pointed to the patterns on the floor, which had begun forming distinct geometric shapes. It's responding to our presence, our technology. The shield isn't just failing, it's being deliberately disrupted. A violent tremor rocked the base, sending equipment crashing to the floor. Emergency bulkheads began sealing automatically, the base's AI trying to contain the structural damage. Through the observation windows, they could see the lunar surface rippling like liquid mercury. "The moon's electromagnetic field is going crazy," Thomas reported, checking his instruments. "These readings, they're similar to what we saw during the initial shield deployment, but magnified 100-fold. Samira fought to maintain her balance as another tremor shook the base. "If we lose the shield completely, Earth will be defenseless against the solar storms. Unless..." Thomas's eyes lit up with sudden understanding. "Commander, what if we've been looking at this all wrong? The timing of the solar storms, the response to our technology, what if it's not an attack, but an attempt to prevent one?" Before Samira could respond, the glowing patterns suddenly converged into a single, brilliant point of light. The air itself seemed to vibrate with energy as a holographic display materialized in the center of the lab, showing Earth, the moon, and complex energy patterns flowing between them. "It's beautiful," Thomas breathed, reaching out to touch the display. As his fingers passed through the light, the hologram shifted, showing a sequence of events: the moon's formation, the evolution of life on Earth, and finally, the recent solar storms. "Look at the pattern," Samira observed, her scientific training taking over. "The storms, they're not random. They're forming a barrier around the solar system." Thomas nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. Our shield project interfered with something much bigger, a natural defense system that's been protecting Earth for billions of years." Another tremor, stronger than before, sent them stumbling. Through the base's windows, they could see the shield array beginning to break apart, panels drifting away into space. "If you're right," Samira said, steadying herself against a console, "then we need to shut down the shield completely." "But if you're wrong?" "Earth dies either way," Thomas finished grimly. "But look at these patterns, they're not random destruction. Whatever intelligence built this system, it's been maintaining Earth's habitability for longer than humans have existed." The holographic display shifted again, showing the shield array dissolving while a much larger, more complex energy field took its place. The patterns on the floor began pulsing more rapidly, the humming tone rising in pitch. "It's asking for permission," Thomas realized, studying the linguistic patterns. "Our shield is interfering with its systems, but it won't force a shutdown without our consent. It's respectful." Samira moved to the shield control terminal, her hand hovering over the emergency shutdown sequence. "The fate of humanity, resting on trust in an alien intelligence we've only just discovered. No pressure." The base shuddered again as more systems began failing. They had minutes at most to make a decision. The holographic display showed both possibilities: Earth protected by their artificial shield, slowly failing against the intensifying storms, or Earth embraced by the ancient system that had guarded it since its formation. "Commander," Thomas said softly, "sometimes the bravest thing we can do is admit that our solution isn't the best one." Samira took a deep breath, her hand steady as it moved toward the controls. A lifetime of training and discipline had prepared her to make impossible decisions, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. With a silent prayer, she initiated the shutdown sequence. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. As the shield array powered down, the lunar surface came alive with patterns of light that stretched across its entire visible surface. The hologram showed energy fields blossoming around Earth, far more sophisticated and comprehensive than anything humans could have designed. "Look at the storm patterns," Thomas exclaimed, checking his readings. "They're being redirected, channeled into the moon's core. It's not just blocking the radiation, it's using it as power." Through the windows, they watched in awe as their failed shield was replaced by something far greater, a testament to the fact that sometimes the best way forward is to step back and recognize that we're part of something much older and wiser than ourselves. Guardians of Dawn. As the ancient defense system hummed to life around them, Samira and Thomas worked frantically to establish contact with Earth. The base's backup communications array sputtered and crackled with interference from the massive energy fields now encircling both celestial bodies. "Earth Command," this is lunar base Helios, Samira repeated for the 20th time, adjusting frequencies. Please respond. Static answered her calls, punctuated by bursts of what sounded almost like music, harmonics from the moon's awakening systems. Thomas hadn't left his instruments, recording everything. The energy signature is unlike anything in human physics, he muttered, eyes wide with wonder. It's as if the moon itself is a massive quantum computer, processing data on a scale we can barely comprehend. The holographic display had expanded, now showing detailed representations of Earth's atmospheric conditions. They watched in amazement as the deadly solar radiation was not just deflected, but transformed. The energy was being channeled through complex patterns, creating a protective cocoon around their home planet. Look at these readings, Thomas called out excitedly. The system isn't just protecting Earth, it's healing it. Radiation levels in the upper atmosphere are dropping rapidly. At this rate, the damage from the last 3 years will be reversed within months. A new tremor ran through the base, different from the violent shaking before. This vibration had a purpose, a rhythm to it. The glowing patterns on the floor began forming new shapes, more complex than before. It's trying to tell us something else, Samira realized, studying the evolving display. The hologram shifted to show a detailed map of the lunar surface, with pulsing points of light at specific locations. These points, they're not random. They're facilities, aren't they? Other bases, built by whoever created this system. Thomas nodded eagerly. Ancient maintenance stations, dormant for millions of years. The closest one is only a few kilometers from here. He pulled up satellite imagery, showing what they had always assumed was a natural crater formation. Now they could see the subtle geometric patterns, too perfect to be natural. We need to go there, Samira decided, already moving toward the equipment storage. If we can access one of these facilities, we might learn more about the system, maybe even find a better way to communicate with Earth. Commander, Thomas hesitated, the lunar surface is more unstable than ever. The rover might not make it. Then we'll walk, she replied firmly, pulling out 2 emergency pressure suits. Earth needs to know what's happening here. They need to understand that we're not alone, that we never were. As they prepared for their expedition, the base's systems continued to register the massive changes occurring around them. The moon's core temperature was rising, but in a controlled pattern that suggested purposeful activation rather than dangerous instability. The journey across the lunar surface was like nothing in their training. The ground beneath their boots rippled with waves of energy, creating patterns that flowed like rivers of light across the dusty landscape. Above them, Earth glowed with a new radiance as the ancient defense system continued its work. Multiple contacts. Thomas suddenly announced through their suit radio. Dozens of objects entering lunar orbit. Samira checked her helmet display, confirming his readings. Earth must have launched everything they had when they lost contact with us. They don't understand what's happening. The objects resolved into a fleet of emergency response vessels, likely carrying teams prepared for the worst. The ancient system reacted immediately, the energy patterns across the lunar surface intensified, and new holographic displays appeared in the space around them. It's not defensive, Thomas observed, studying the patterns. It's welcoming them. Look at the energy signatures, it's creating safe corridors for the ships to land. Indeed, paths of softly glowing light were forming in the lunar sky, guiding the approaching vessels towards stable landing zones. The system that had hidden itself for so long was now openly revealing its presence to humanity. Commander Hassan. A familiar voice crackled through their radio, Diana Wells, from the original evacuation. We've been trying to reach you for days. The solar storms, they just stopped, and these energy patterns, what's happening up there? Samira smiled inside her helmet, watching the ships begin their landing approach. Diana, you're not going to believe this, but we've made contact with something extraordinary. The moon, it's been protecting Earth since the beginning. And now it's ready to share its secrets with us. The nearest ancient facility was beginning to emerge from its millennia of dormancy, panels of unknown material sliding aside to reveal an entrance. As Earth's ships descended around them, Samira and Thomas stood at the threshold of a discovery that would change humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. "Ready?" Samira asked, extending her hand toward the doorway that seemed to beckon them forward. Thomas nodded, his scientific excitement barely contained. Ready to make history. Together, they stepped into the ancient facility, as above them, humanity's first official contact with an alien intelligence unfolded in the star-filled lunar sky. The moon had awakened, and with it, a new chapter in human history was about to begin. Legacy of Stars. The ancient facility breathed to life around Samira and Thomas as they ventured deeper inside, their helmet lights revealing crystalline walls that pulsed with internal energy. Behind them, Earth's emergency response teams were setting up a perimeter under Diana Wells' direction, their ships casting long shadows across the lunar surface. "These markings," Thomas breathed, running his gloved hand along a wall covered in intricate patterns. "They're not just decorative, they're circuitry on a quantum level. The entire structure is one massive computer." Samira's attention was drawn to a central chamber where a soft blue light emanated from what appeared to be a control interface. As they approached, the light intensified, and the familiar holographic display materialized, but this time, it was different. More detailed. More alive. "Welcome, children of Earth," a voice resonated through their minds, neither male nor female, yet somehow comforting. The hologram coalesced into a form that shifted between geometric patterns and almost human shapes. "We have waited long for this moment." What are you?" Samira asked, her training as a commander momentarily forgotten in the face of this extraordinary contact. "We are the Guardians," the voice replied. "Left behind by those you might call the architects, beings who seeded countless worlds with the potential for life, then departed to regions unknown. We are their legacy, their gift to emerging civilizations." The hologram expanded, showing countless solar systems, each with its own guardian system. Earth was not chosen by chance. Your world showed remarkable potential for complex life, and so we were installed within your moon, tasked with protecting and nurturing your evolution. The solar storms, Thomas realized. They weren't a threat at all, were they? A test, the Guardian confirmed. Your species had reached a crucial moment in its development. Your attempts to build the shield demonstrated both your technological advancement and your commitment to protecting your world. But more importantly, your willingness to trust in something greater than yourselves proved your readiness for the next step. Diana's voice crackled over their radio. "Commander, you need to see this. The energy field around Earth, it's doing something new." Through the facility's crystalline walls, they could see Earth glowing with a new intensity. The hologram showed them what was happening. The Guardian systems were not just protecting Earth but actively healing it. Pollution levels were dropping, radiation damage was being reversed, and the planet's natural systems were being restored to balance. "This is only the beginning," the Guardian continued. "We offer you access to the architect's knowledge, not freely given, but earned through your own development. You will find similar facilities on Mars, Europa, and throughout your solar system, each waiting to be awakened when you are ready." "But why now?" Samira asked. "Why not reveal yourselves sooner, prevent some of humanity's mistakes?" "Growth requires challenge," the voice explained. The architects believed that civilizations must find their own path, learn from their own errors. Our role was to ensure those mistakes would not be fatal to your world or your species. Now, you have proven yourselves ready for greater responsibility. Thomas was already documenting everything, his scientist's mind racing with possibilities. The implications for human advancement, clean energy, environmental restoration, space travel, will be achieved by your own efforts, the Guardian interjected. We offer guidance, not solutions. The journey of discovery remains yours. Suddenly, new voices joined their radio channel as communications with Earth were fully restored. The hologram showed scenes from around the world, people emerging from their shelters, witnessing the extraordinary light show in the sky as the Guardian system made its presence known to all of humanity. There will be fear, Samira said, thinking of the chaos this revelation would cause. Not everyone will accept this easily. Change is never easy, the Guardian acknowledged. But your species has shown remarkable adaptability. This facility will serve as an embassy of sorts, a place where humanity can learn, grow, and prepare for its role among the stars. Diana entered the chamber, her expression one of wonder as she took in the alien technology. Earth Command is requesting guidance on how to proceed, she reported. The whole world is watching. Samira straightened, feeling the weight of the moment. Tell them that humanity has been given a gift. Not just protection or technology, but something more valuable, a purpose. We're not alone in the universe. We never were. And now we have a chance to become something greater than we ever imagined. The Guardian's presence seemed to approve. The path ahead will not be easy. There will be challenges, conflicts, and choices that test your wisdom and resolve. But you have proven yourselves worthy of the Architect's legacy. The stars await. As if in response, the facility illuminated fully, revealing vast chambers of knowledge and technology that had waited patiently for humanity's arrival. Outside, more ships were arriving from Earth, bringing scientists, diplomats, and observers to witness this new dawn. Thomas touched Samira's arm. Commander, about what happened during the evacuation, staying behind. She smiled behind her helmet visor. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from our mistakes, Doctor. Sometimes being left behind means being exactly where you need to be. The Guardian's hologram showed one final image, a view of Earth and the Moon together, now visibly connected by flowing rivers of energy and light. Humanity's cradle and its ancient protector, united at last in a partnership that would shape the destiny of both worlds. The story of humanity's childhood ends today, the Guardian announced. Your future among the stars begins. Welcome to the greater community of consciousness. Welcome home. As the sun rose over the lunar horizon, casting long shadows across the ancient facility, Samira, Thomas, and Diana stood as representatives of a humanity forever changed. The moon had kept its secrets for billions of years, waiting for this precise moment, when humanity would prove itself ready not just to survive, but to become part of something greater than itself. The last human left behind on the moon had become the first to welcome humanity into its cosmic inheritance. And in the depths of space, other guardians stirred, preparing to meet their new siblings in the vast family of sentient life.